Coming straight at you from deepest, darkest East Texas. This is the Tony DeGonia podcast. So find you a spot where you get good signal, grab you some sweet iced tea, turn up your headset, because we're jumping in with both feet to the Tony DeGonia podcast.
When everything is broken and nothing's going right.
Hey, welcome to the next edition of CyberSimplified on the Tony DeGonia show. Today we're just going to make some announcements about some things that we're going to be talking about on the CyberSimplified side of the house. Our next episode, we're going to talk about an article that was passed along to me by one Mr. Gary Tryon. Gary, just so you know, was my manager and senior director in my last role, and he's also a good personal friend of mine whom I still have contact with and enjoy talking to very much. He's been a mentor, and every time I talk to this guy, I learn something. Just the kind of person that, you know, you're better off knowing. But anyway, he saw fit to pass along to me an article from Transport Security World. And the title of the article is Airline Security, a Cause for Concern as Delta Reveals 2017 Cyber Attack. Now, that's a huge deal. We've had a number of cyber attacks across the airline industry over the past few months, over the past couple of years, actually, between American Airlines and the city of Atlanta and the airport in Atlanta, both having cyber attacks and large ransomware attacks. We want to cover some of these things because, you know, there are ways that they could have protected themselves from some of these things, and they didn't, and they should have. And so, you know, my goal is to talk with small business owners and help them to understand how to be secure. And we can take some very, very good lessons from these larger organizations. Now, granted, these larger organizations have a lot more money to spend, in theory, but with the way the industry's going, you know, really high-end, good cyber and physical security solutions are available at a scalable cost, so that, you know, if a small business were to make it a priority, they'd be able to do these things and be able to work it into their budget. You know, the big thing that I've said throughout all of my talks thus far is that the mindset for security has got to be one that changes from a cost center perspective to a profit center. Because trust me, if you don't treat it like a profit center and invest in it, then it's going to be a serious cost center when that ransomware hits and the hackers want, you know, 50 or 100 bitcoins at $10,000 a bitcoin, you know, or even if they want 2 or 3 bitcoins, you know, at $30,000 or $40,000, you know, for a small city or for a small business, you know, even if they're doing pretty well, you know, if they're making, you know, that if they've made the $1 million mark in their business, 30, 40 grand, I mean, that hurts. that definitely puts a bite on things and sets you back. And not only that, um, you're if you pay the ransom, you still have the software on your computers in your network. So what happens is let's say that particular hacker decides, hey, you know what? I got 30 grand out of them last time. I've still got the software on there. Let's cut them off and see if they'll pay us another 30 grand. And then the real ransom begins. So these are things that you need to think about. Anyway, not to ramble on too long. This is supposed to be short and sweet. It's just an announcement. Our next podcast, and we may do a video cast, a video-based podcast on this as well, is going to be the Delta hack of 2017. I am going to use the article that Gary sent over. Gary, thank you very much for sending that over. I certainly appreciate it. If I'm lucky, maybe I can get Gary to agree to come on and, do the podcast with me. If not, I'll do it by myself because that's what I do. And then we'll go from there. There are some other resources. I always research more than one resource so that I can give you a whole story and a larger picture than just that one perspective, because I firmly believe that you can't take one perspective on anything. That would be like, never listening to both sides of the story before you go to the voting booth. That happens a lot these days, and that's why we're in the situation we're in the world. So I like to listen to both sides, see who's got the best perspective, and then bring you something that's somewhat fair and balanced. I like to throw my own opinion in there because I'm not a news source. I'm an opinion source, and my opinion's right sometimes. Sometimes it's wrong. But what I try to offer you is from my experience. So, once again, we're looking at our next podcast launching on April 24th. That's on a Tuesday. Actually, no, we're going to do it on Monday, April 23rd, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. We launch our podcasts every Monday and Thursday. Our next podcast after that will be Thursday, April 26th at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, and the podcast for that week or for that podcast is yet to be announced. I will announce that at the conclusion of the April 23rd episode 3 of CyberSimplified. We'll announce that at the end of that podcast. Well, listen, thanks a lot for hanging out with us, for listening to everything we had to say, at least most of it, and we'll see you down the road. Have a good night.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Tony DeGonia podcast. Just a couple of things to remember. You can find us on our website at tonydegonia.com/podcast. On LinkedIn at linkedin.com/n/Tony DeGonia. On Twitter at Tony DeGonia. On Facebook.com/Tony DeGonia SE. You can also catch all of our episodes on iTunes, Google Play, and our website, of course, Podbean.com, Blueberry.com, and most other mainstream podcast outlets. And remember our mantra, be awesome because you are awesome. Thanks for listening. Hope y'all enjoyed it, and we'll see you down the road.
Nothing seems it's going